spend a couple of minutes talking about the overall theme for the convention. And the theme is not meant to be a mechanism for you to plan your proposal around, but rather a mindset for all of us to think about how we're going into the convention. So when our group got together last November and started thinking about the direction we wanted to go, there were a few key areas that stood out as important for the 2015 convention. That would be transparency in the process, universal design as we look ahead to the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a holistic approach to our work, and connecting inquiry and action. And inquiry and action was a very important word for us. We did not want to talk about scholarship and practice or create a binary, but really thinking about the important connections and all of the work that we do, whether that be research, practice, or both, which led us to our very broad theme, which is consider, collaborate, create, commit. And this is not necessarily for you to have to use in your program titles, but as a way for us to think about organizing the entire convention. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dwayne to talk more about specifics.
There we go. I always have a problem with that mute thing. Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar. We'd like to spend a little bit of time today talking about the types of programs that will be offered at the convention this year and make sure that we understand all of the various types that, of programs that occur during the convention, and then maybe begin to jog your thinking about which program type you might want to submit your program to for consideration. So the very first one on the list here is pre-convention colloquia, and these are typically called pre-cons. That's sort of the lingo in the convention about it. And these are extended, in-depth sessions around sustained dialogue on a topic or a contemporary issue that the presenter wants to discuss. Those are, we've kind of vacillated back and forth over the years between inviting program sessions for that and then just using invited programs. This year's program team decided to do both. So there may be invited programs that we specifically asked to do a pre-convention colloquia session, but we're also soliciting ideas from our membership on that. So we encourage you to think about what might be appropriate for that program type, thinking in terms of having participants either for a full half day or an entire full day. So that would be 3 hours or 6 hours. What topic would be appropriate for that length of time? This year the convention is kind of on an off schedule, so the full convention runs from Thursday until Sunday of that week in March. So the pre-convention sessions will be held on Wednesday, March 4th, or Thursday, March 5th. So one thing to keep in mind is that these programs will occur before the convention begins, and typically participants have to pay an extra fee to attend these workshops. So they're add-on to their convention registration. Next program type is general convention programs. These are the bulk of what has occurred in the convention in the past. They are the sort of bread and butter of the educational program offering at the convention. They're 60-minute sessions. We choose them mainly based on their relevancy to contemporary issues and their relation to the professional competencies. One thing that we're looking for, in particular with general convention programs, is a theoretical or conceptual foundation for the discussion. So it needs to be grounded in some kind of understanding of how the work connects with what we know are good practices within the field, but the theory that underlies that. So most of the program types we'll see, at least in the past, have been general convention programs. Extended sessions are similar to the general convention programs, except that they last for a longer period of time. So where general convention programs last for an hour, the extended sessions last for 2 hours, and they extend over 2 session blocks. The idea is that there are topics that just simply can't be adequately covered in an hour, or there may be an approach that someone wants to use to the conversation that necessitates a longer time period with attendees. So these will be 2-hour block sessions. Think about it as an intensive learning experience, and we're looking to promote a level of competence in a certain area for extended session. If you're going to propose an extended session, you need to sort of provide some justification about why it needs to be a 2-hour session and not a 1-hour session. We're looking for strong conceptual framework, a detailed agenda about how that time would be used, And if you represent a commission or a standing committee and you want to sponsor an extended session, you can do so. But the extended session block will count for 2 of the slots that you're given by the convention team for sponsored and co-sponsored programs. All right, a new program type we're trying this year is called exceptional practice programs. We've seen these all along, but they've been lumped into the general program type. And there we go. And we're looking to separate those out, where exceptional practice programs are really about best practice. And general programs are more geared around theoretical or conceptual ideas that want to be shared. In these exceptional practice programs, we're asking you to share program strategies, interventions that have been successful on particular campuses. They may or may not relate specifically to the professional competencies. We hope that they do, but we don't want to assume that every best practice, exceptional practice program will. And it may not go into any detail about a theoretical foundation, but we are looking specifically for a proven track record of success. So if you're going to propose an exceptional practice program, we are absolutely looking for some kind of evaluative or assessment measure that helps us know that this program has been effective and what sort of difference it has made both with the campus and particularly with students in their learning. It is a 60-minute time slot, just like general programs. I'm sorry. The best practices time slot will be a 60-minute time slot, but because we're not asking for as much background information as we are in general programs, we're actually going to sort of put 2 or 3 presenters together on one of those 60-minute time slots. So what it does is it requires people to be kind of to the point about what the program is, how it's benefited students, and make some applications for people to the campuses. We're going to try and lump those by similarly focused topics. So some examples you see here. It might be around transition programs, residence life practices, student conduct approaches. It might be around recreational athletics. It might be around counseling services. It might be around, you name it, about functional areas within student affairs. So think about that kind of time slot. Is this a program that's really sort of helping share something that we're doing on our campus that we think other people might really benefit from? If so, it's probably an exceptional practice program. Is it a little more conceptual and theoretical in work? We're not talking about research necessarily, but we're talking about something that's grounded in sort of values of the profession or the work that we do that's based on prior work, research and theory and conceptual underpinning. So there's the exceptional practice programs. We're also asking people to think about participating in the resource table area. We're going to provide, much like we do with research papers, we're going to provide a resource table area where people who are accepted into the exceptional practice program category will be allowed to and asked to staff a table, essentially, at a certain period of time where people can display information about their program. They can provide materials, handouts, and that sort of thing. That's really an interactive kind of intention around this, where instead of people all sort of flooding up to the front at the end of a presentation and trying to have all those follow-up conversations, the exceptional practice resource table area will be a place for those conversations later on. So we're asking people to bring program-related materials and handouts for people to take or review and have an in-depth conversation about it. Next page. Good. So these are the other program types. Sponsored and co-sponsored programs are essentially the same as general programs and exceptional practice programs, except that they are picked up, if you will, I can use that term, by one of the ACPA entities for sponsorship. So when you propose a session, if you would like that one of our entities, our commissions or our standing committees, to consider sponsoring that, picking it up and including it in their allotted space on during the convention, you can mark that on your form, your online form that you're filling out, and then they will have a team of people from that entity that will review that program and consider whether they want to sponsor it either alone as an entity or in co-sponsorship with another entity. Those programs, again, are reviewed by those respective commissions or committees and standing committees, and then those that are not picked up for sponsorship will then be included in the general program selection process to see whether we want to go ahead and offer that as a general program in the convention. That review will be based on the entity reviewer's feedback. Constituent programs are of a different nature. They are, again, 60-minute time slots, and they may feel like general programs. It's just the process by which they end up at the convention is different. These may be sponsored by our state or international divisions. They have spotlight programs that they can bring forward that have been done at their state or international conferences. Official committees or boards of the association also then provide some programming and some educational sessions. Our corporate partners are offered the opportunity to talk about their product, but we ask them in particular to make sure that it's not a sales pitch necessarily, that there's an educational piece to what they're offering. And then other things like the foundation, senior and emerging scholars, the SSAO, advisory board, all are offered the opportunity to provide some programming. Research papers are sort of a long-standing tradition at CKD is where I work, ACPA is what we're talking about. These are presentations of scholarly research. So this is much like people would see at ASH or other more academically focused conferences. These are 45-minute program slots, and those program slots will be shared by 3 presenters. 3 research papers will be offered at about 15 or 20-minute increments, followed by a period of discussion for all of the research that's presented. So those are essentially papers that are offered for review by a team that's selected by the person who's coordinating this program type. And then if they're invited to present at the convention, they'll be notified in that regard. Same as the exceptional practice resource table, the poster sessions will be offered to those who are not given a time slot to present, but are invited to share their knowledge gained from the research through a poster session where they're in person talking about the research that they did. Ancillary programs are another program type altogether. These are programs that are not necessarily educational in nature, but they're functional meetings, receptions, and those sorts of things. You'll see that on the form when you fill out a proposal. So just know that ancillary programs are for meetings. That's the best way to categorize it. Meetings and receptions, and they're not educational sessions. So I want to make sure no one's confused about that. They're figuring out which program types to present. All right, so let's talk about the tentative timeline here for proposals. We've already passed the June 3rd time, and the call for programs and program reviewers was released on that date. We're now at the June 19th webcast, so thank you for being here. Program submissions and reviewer signups are due by September 4th. So I would encourage people not to wait until September 1st to start thinking about it. We get in the neighborhood of about 1,000 program submissions each year, and it becomes difficult. You know, it becomes difficult to put together a good program that can stack up against other programs that are submitted with a lot of thought put into them. If you're sort of not working on this all along over the summer, so I would encourage you to begin now thinking about your program, how you want to put that together, so that you don't find yourself September 1st rushing to try to throw something together and put it in the system. September 9th, we'll be doing another webcast. These are tentative dates from this point on. September 9th, we plan to do one on how to review programs for ACPA for those who are going to be assigned programs to review. Some of you may have signed up to do that as well. We want to make sure everyone knows the process on that. Program reviews will be due September 30th. We'll plan to notify presenters on or around October 16th whether their program will be picked up for presentation at the convention. We ask people then to commit back to us, yes, I will be presenting, or no, I've changed my mind. By October 30th, October 6th is when those meeting space requests need to be in. And September 13th, we plan to do another webcast. So now you're accepted, your program's been accepted, how do you begin to prepare for that actual presentation at the convention? And then September 2nd, we plan to notify people about the space and time that they've been given to present their program. Which room are you going to be in? If we know that at the time, but certainly what time slot will you be in? All right, so Don's going to talk with us about writing a good proposal. How do you put the proposal together in a way that makes sure it stands out and good opportunity to be reviewed well?
Okay, thank you very much, Dwayne. Again, my name is Don Stenta at Ohio State. Very happy to be here today to help provide some information about putting together the best proposal possible. So we put together a couple of slides here that outline some of the really interesting considerations to put into place here for your program proposal. I think the first thing that I'd be thinking about is what is it that you know a good deal about? And that's going to be a really important factor for you to take into consideration. So if you have a research agenda that you've been working on, if you have some really great programs and activities that are happening back on your campus, if you have an area about which you have significant amount of passion and also know a good deal about, that's going to be the winning combination, because your expertise plus your passion and commitment is going to come through, I think, very, very clearly in the way that you put together your proposal. So you'll want to think about that. What is something that you know a good deal about? And then, what is it that the folks who are attending your session are going to benefit from? What will be the learning outcomes that you'll establish? The learning outcomes ought to be, like all learning outcomes, be very clear and concise, and should articulate exactly what you would expect participants to get out of your session. So you'll want to be thinking about, what is it specifically that people will be able to learn? What can they demonstrate? What one or two or three items might they be able to walk out of your session knowing? Or are there some new resources that they'll be able to pick up, some new particular forms of practice that they may be able to focus in on? I think that when the learning outcomes are clear and concise, the people who are looking at the program proposals will be able to see very clearly, oh, okay, when a person is attending this session, they're going to get the following outcomes out of this, and that's going to add value to the entire convention. So when the learning outcomes are clear and concise, we all will benefit there. The next thing that you'll want to think about is all the different session formats that Dwayne outlined. So you'll want to pay really close attention to the differentiating factors that are involved there. And, if you've got a topic that you think is very, very in-depth and could benefit the ECTA membership, then you'll want to consider, an extended session or one of the sessions that will allow you to have additional time to dive into that detail. If you have not presented a session before at ECTA or at a conference, I can guarantee you that a 60-minute time slot goes by extremely quickly. And many of you, I'm sure, are very experienced at facilitating and leading a class or a session or a workshop on your own campus, so you know how quickly time can go. And you'll want to think about the specific format that's going to get to your learning outcomes. I think one of the things that I would really encourage you to think about is to consider the audience and matching the learning outcomes with the folks who are going to be in the room. If you are very, very passionate about advancing theory in our profession, I think a general session is a great way to focus in on a particular theory and and help advance that. But you wouldn't want to propose that for one of the exemplary practices, right? The exceptional practices sessions that we've put together for this year are sessions that will help advance the practice of student affairs. And so if you've got a really great program or a great new initiative that's going on at your campus, then the exceptional practices would be a really great way to feature that, because they're a shorter time block, and they'll be able to you'll be able to really sort of laser in more specifically on the general topic there. Finally, on this slide, it's very, very important for our profession to think about the professional competencies that exist to help us become outstanding professionals. And there's a really wonderful document that ECPA and NASPA worked together on. The link is here on the PowerPoint slide. And when you go to the management system to submit your content for your proposal, you will be asked to select up to 2 professional competencies. And the nice thing is that on the management system, all of the professional competencies are actually hyperlinked with a very complete definition of what the professional competencies are. And so that's a really great way to be very, very clear about which competencies are happening here. We do this for a number of reasons, mainly to help people understand and plan their convention experience, but then also to have participants who are attending the convention understand that there's a very planful way to help advance your own professional development by selecting the various professional competencies that are available at the convention. And so, yeah, I think it's like the second or the third item that you'll be asked to focus on in the convention management system, the professional competencies. So you'll select two of those. And like I said, the link there will provide you with more specific information about what the competencies are and how they're defined. On the next slide, then, there's a nice opportunity for you to provide supporting research and data, if that's available and appropriate for the session that you're putting together. Relevant theories, if appropriate, are also welcome. What you'll want to consider is our colleagues are the ones who are reviewing these proposals, right? It's not like we send them off to a panel of experts who are absent from life and live in a cave and all they do is wait to get proposals. It's us. It's all of us who review each other's work. And so what you'll want to do is think about what information would I want to know, and what connections would I like to see in a program proposal form, and what would I like to experience at the convention, right? So a lot of times I'll go to the conference and I'll think, geez, that session, I thought it was going to go in this direction, but it went in that direction. And a lot of times it's because we want to make sure that there's a great way to ground theory and put it into practice. I think that that's a really important way to help advance what happens, the professional development that happens at a conference. So if there's a way for you to apply the relevant theories, if possible, and again, you don't have unlimited time and space on in each of the fields, right? There's going to be word limits, so you want to think about how to be concise in this, but just to be specific about how you provide that supporting research and data. So I think what's happened in the last few years is that there may be some supervisors out there saying, well, the only way you're going to get funding to go to a conference is if you present. And so people say, Kristan, do you want to put together a proposal? And Kristan will say, sure, Don, well, let's do that together. And by the way, Dwayne and Encore and all these other people at different universities, they can't go unless they get a program accepted, so let's just let them on our topic. And all of a sudden we have 15 people who are going to present in a 60-minute time slot. Well, that's just going to be kind of a rotating cast of characters that I think will end up being actually pretty distracting and not helpful in terms of advancing what you're going to want to during that session time. So we obviously want you to have a diverse and supportive group of people who are part of the presenting team. But we want you to really encourage you to avoid unnecessarily large groups. This is just because with a limited time, it's very difficult to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. And if you have a large number of people on your presenting team, you stand a greater chance of going over your time slot. And so time is of the essence at the conference, so we want to make sure that people stay within their allocated time. In your the data management system, there'll be an opportunity for you to sketch out an outline of the agenda for your session. So if you're putting together a session agenda, you might want to say that you're going to spend about 5 minutes on an introduction. You might want to spend about 20 minutes, say, on an outline of the relevant theories. 20 to 25 minutes may be around the particular deliverables that you have with your learning outcomes, and then you'll leave time for questions and answers or the involvement with the members who are in your session. That time frame will help the people who are reviewing programs think about how the session is actually going to be delivered. So if you have a very, very ambitious agenda with a great deal of supporting research and a very significant number of theories, and you're putting together a proposal for a general session of 60 minutes, the reviewer, it will really help that person to think about, well, how is this actually going to be delivered? So you're kind of thinking about, we're at maybe a good analogy to think about a funnel here. So you're starting with very broad perspectives when you're putting together a proposal, and now we're getting into more specific. So you want to outline the time frame for each part. Each of the fields that are in the convention management system specify what the word limits are for each section, and it's a little bit unforgiving like text boxes are. If it says 1,000 words and you start typing in 1,200, those additional 200 words won't appear. So you'll want to make sure that you stay within those word limits because because if the content, if you go over the word limit, the content won't be there, and that will not be helpful to the program reviewers. So just pay attention to that. One thing that I've often done in the past is when I'm submitting a program proposal, I'll actually put it together in a Word document and then just do a quick cut and paste so that I make sure that I don't lose any data, I don't lose any information, and that I have that at my fingertips at all times. So when I was working on my dissertation, I was convinced and determined that I was not going to use a colon in the title of my dissertation, just because sometimes those sorts of things feel a little force-fed. Now, unfortunately, I had to relent to a faculty member who said this is what the title of your dissertation should be, and it had to have a colon. So there is a colon in that. But anyway, you don't have to have all 4 words from our convention theme in the title of your session. If it's something that works and it works well, then by all means think about using the convention theme in your title, but it is not something that's a requirement. It does not add value or extra points. On the review side, you don't have to have our 4 words with a colon, or you don't have to say collaborate colon, ... Just if it's appropriate, that's fine, but don't feel the need to really force the convention theme into the title. So we are asking to capitalize major words in your session title that you're not following APA style, and this is just a very helpful technique. The reason that we ask this is because the management system that we're using that I keep referring to actually helps inform a lot of steps of the process of the convention. And one of the important things that it does is it dumps the data that is inputted right into the shell of what we put together, what we put out there in terms of the sessions that are there. So when we put together the program book, when we put together the, what's the app called? The convention app, the online application, the content that you enter will actually be what we will be there, what we will see. And so if you're able to capitalize your session like capital W, writing a good proposal, capital G, capital P, if that was the name of our session, then that's how we would enter that into the convention management system. And that's going to help the convention team on our end make sure that the title that you want is exactly the title that you get, and it'll be in the exact way that you want it to show up in the program book. If your clear intent is to put things in all caps or lowercase letters, that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine to do that. But you don't need to, kind of call everybody's attention, saying, writing a good proposal is the name of our title, thinking that it'll attract more people or whatever. If it's something that's part of the intention, that's great, but you don't need to do that. Okay, I think we're back to Dwayne at this point.
All right. So we've mentioned the professional competencies a number of times, and we wanted to just show them here so you can begin to think about, maybe you have a topic in mind that you want to propose, and begin to think about how they connect with one or more of these professional competencies. The full document about the competencies is available for download from the ACPA website. We gave you the link earlier, but you can certainly just go to www.myacpa.org and look under the resources area under publications. Scroll down, you'll see that there. You will need your membership. You'll need to log in as a member in order to download that, but it is a free PDF download. And that'll help you really understand what the competencies are, not just the description of the category, but specifically what are the knowledge, skills, and values or attitudes that are contained within those competencies that might connect with your topic. Next slide. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about this mysterious evaluation process that reviewers use. It seems mysterious to a lot of people, but it actually is not so much. But we want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what most reviewers are looking for when they go through your program. From a process standpoint, the first round of reviews is an anonymous review. So the reviewers will see your program content, all of it that you submit, except for your name and your institution. Those will be reviewed by at least 3 people, and those reviewer responses, they rate those programs, and they are that information is logged into the system, and then on the back end, the program team will go over all those results and begin to make selections about which programs will be accepted based on the reviewer feedback. what they're typically looking for are these types of things. They want to make sure that they're relevant to the professional competencies and the current practice. So it's sort of two sides of the same coin. One, does it connect with what we say we need to know how to do in our field? But two, is it a current issue that people are going to want to know more about, or is it, even if it's not a current issue, is it relevant right now to the work that we do every day? Is it supported by data? And is there, if it's appropriate, is there a conceptual framework or theory that's behind that proposal? Again, if you're submitting an exceptional practice program, you need to include some of your assessment data. We certainly don't want to see